Good evening, friends. Happy to start off the Bliss Catchers evening. Can we all move up front, please? Because then people coming in a little later can sit at the back. I think most people know about the Bliss Catchers event series that we've been having. This is the ninth event that we've been having in this series. Firstly, though Ashwin is not here, Ashwin of Odyssey, a big thank you to Odyssey and to Ashwin for this supporting this event so wholeheartedly. So the Bliss Catchers has been featuring people who have chosen to follow what gives them joy. And we've been doing this, we've been having people from all walks of life. And today we have, for the first time, we have two very young people. So that is something very novel. And in fact, before I go on to introduce them, just something that came to my mind, somebody was talking to me, and last time also we had a question on this. You know, people asked me a question saying, Avis and Vani, if you people are going to keep talking about following your bliss, and if everyone decides to move on and become a photographer or a singer or a dancer or a chef like Nishant, then what's going to happen to people like me? He's the CEO of a company. He said, what's going to happen to people like me? Nobody's going to be there to work for me. Everyone's going to go and keep following their bliss. So I told him that, listen, bliss is something that's very personal to people. And, fortunately, bliss means different things to different people. And so for somebody, it could be, writing and traveling like it is to Niyantha here, young Niyantha. Or it could be, making brownies like what Nishant does. Nishant here, runs this brand called Brownie Heaven. So you can see he's got a Brownie Heaven t-shirt. And I've had the pleasure of knowing Nishant, from a very young age. He and our son, Ashirwad, were classmates. And so I've known him. And for the life of me, I always thought he was going to become a cricketer because he was a star player. His name was in the paper, I think, almost every day or every week. If I didn't see his name in the paper for the cricket scores that he was getting, I would have thought it's unusual. So I, in fact, was waiting to see which IPL team he's going to join. And but then I discovered later that he had followed his passion of wanting to be a chef, and he had done his qualifications at Manipal and then joined ITC, and now he runs this brand called Brownie Heaven. And so, in fact, I myself don't know what made him change. I've not purposely chatted up because I wanted to listen to it here and understand what drove him to follow his passion. Niyantha here is another very interesting young person, and it's always been our curiosity to understand, because people that we have met before have actually been people who've probably tried out a career in some line and then made a switch. But what fascinates me about these two is the fact that they are so young and yet have made that decision. Both of them. And Niyantha, I've read, his writing. Amazing blog that you have, Niyantha. And, the photographs and the writing. So we're waiting to hear about what brought you from your undergrad in the US and your job at Microsoft to writing and traveling. We're waiting to hear about all of that. And so I think we're all set for an exciting evening. I'll hand it over to Avis.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this edition of the Bliss Catchers. I was talking to Shobha, Nishant's mother, a little while ago, and she asked me how did the idea of Bliss Catchers come up. And, I think it's pertinent that people understand how it came up, but I missed telling you an anecdote, so I'll add the anecdote to it. So the Bliss Catchers was actually born out of a cathartic phase that Vani and I were going through and are still going through where we understood that the true meaning of life is to be happy doing what you love doing. Money will come, money will go. We'll all grow older and someday die. But the interesting thing is that in the one lifetime that we have to live, can we do what we love doing? And can we really live rather than, as my good friend Edgy would always point out, can we live rather than just exist? So that was if you like, the spiritual, the academic, the abstract construct of the Bliss Catchers. But how the idea to host an event series and particularly keep it non-commercial came about was sometime in November 2013. A friend of ours pinged us from New Jersey, and he said, "Avis and Vani, I want to connect you to two absolutely fascinating people. One is an American, both are Americans, but one has an Indian connection. The gentleman, the guy, he must be like 28 now, so 2 years ago he was 26, your age. And he's giving up a position at McKinsey to travel in India. And his girlfriend, Resham, the lady with the Indian connection, though originally she was born in Hawaii, is joining him. And she's pausing her postdoctoral research in psychiatry. And what are they doing in India? They are traveling across India to understand the chai walas of India. And both Vani and I were very intrigued. What they wanted was connections to people that can host them in each city. And, we said, we can't host you guys. We have a very small apartment and we can't host you. But we can definitely host an afternoon with you where you can come and talk about why are you writing about the chai walas of India. And this happened in January 2014. So we had Zach and Resham join us. And we called about 15, 20 of our friends to come and listen to them. So the first Bliss Catchers event was actually hosted at our home. And I still remember one of the questions that went Resham's way was, but stopping a postdoctoral thesis, stopping pausing a consulting career, aren't you guys crazy? What are you going to gain out of this? And Resham replied, she said, I'll take that question. And she said, we live only one life. I think the thesis can still be done. I think we can still make all the money. But we're never going to get this time back as the two of us, as good friends, exploring a country that we love so deeply and understanding how the chaiwalas of India think. And she said, the only question is, when do you want to do what you love doing? And she completed saying that if there is a good time for doing anything in your life, it is now. So that really, that's the anecdote I had missed telling you, Shobha. So that's really the story behind the Bliss Catchers. And we are in the 9th edition. Of course, it took us a year to find somebody to be able to host it for us because we couldn't obviously host it every time at home. And so it's, it's wonderful to have the event here at Odyssey. This time we have something special for all of you. As many of you must have made out, we have brownies being served because one of our guests, Nishant here, is a chef and he's the master brownie maker. I'll give you that title, okay? So someday if you really get it in a very legal, official way, you can thank me for it, okay? And we have Niyantha. I'm going to ask, the way the event is structured is I'm going to ask them a few questions. We'll be jamming together, that's what I've told them. But we have another very interesting thing happening today. You see these nice, beautiful looking mugs? This is not like coffee like with Karan mugs, okay? So they're not kept here just as props. So at the end of today's session, when we open the floor for questions somewhere in the middle. We'll have Niyantha and Nishant asking you a couple of questions. And those that get the answers right get to take away the mug. So we thought we'll give you a little twist, an interesting twist to our normal format. Ramesh, my good friend, my Bliss Catcher friend there, keeps encouraging us to do something new every time. So this is what we have going this time. Okay? So are we all set, gentlemen? Okay? So those are your mics, and you just need to turn them on, and we're all set. So my first question is, I think a slight correction to Vani's data point. Apart from Niyantha and Nishant, who are obviously very young, as you can see, we've had one more young guest, and that is young as in biologically young, okay? Because one of the guests who's always young at heart is sitting in the last row there, Dr. P. Srinivasan, who's just back from Alaska following his bliss, okay? He finds the time to do all of that, So the other young guest we have had is Ritvik Raja. And so I'll throw the first question to Nishant, because Ritvik and Nishant have something in common. Both of them gave up cricket, and both of them were fabulous players. And the good news is that Nishant still plays cricket. He scored a century this morning, okay, playing for the Gandhinagar club?
Yeah, for Gandhinagar.
Okay, for the Gandhinagar club. So my first question to you is, when and how did this decision to give up cricket, as in playing competitive cricket and making it your career, okay, when was this decision taken, and why wanting to be a chef? Were you always interested in cooking? And tell us a little bit about that time when you had to make this choice, and how difficult or how easy was it to make it?
Okay, so I made this choice when I was about 18, 19, and till then I actually never entered the kitchen, as in to cook anything, as in I didn't know much of cooking, but we used to travel a lot across the country and to various places playing cricket. So one thing that I would always look forward to was the buffet for breakfast, lunch and dinner. So if we were either batting or fielding, so I would always, if we were batting I wouldn't eat much, but if we were fielding I would eat a lot. And so I would always, like, different places had different kinds of food, and I would always, want to explore different cuisines and where we used to stay. So what I used to do in the night is just go explore the streets, see what kind of food is there. So somewhere I always had a connection with food, and I had to make a choice when I told you 18, 19, and I had to think 10, 20 years down the line what I would be doing maybe when I was 35, 40, and whether I would be happy doing it. So and I realized that I wouldn't be happy playing cricket, as in because it's very difficult to make it to the top 15 in India, so that if you don't make it to the top 15 in India, then you're just one among the many players in the country. So there really isn't any sense playing. As in, there is if you want that kind of life, but again, I didn't want that kind of life. In the sense, it would be working, because I got some offers from India Cements and all these places, so it would be just going to the office, signing, and just playing cricket whenever they required you. And the rest of the day, you're free to do what you want, and you just practice for the team and represent the team whenever they needed it. So I decided that I didn't want to do that. And I had to do something else that, as in I've always been on my feet. I used to play cricket since I was 7, so I was always on my feet throughout the day. So this was the next best profession. So as a chef, you're always on your feet. Very rare moments when I get to sit down like this. So you're always on your feet, you're eating while standing and all that. So I thought that was the best thing to do. Maybe I could explore something. And I was always creative. And with food, there's no limit to what you can do on a plate. So you get a plate and you can do whatever you want with the food on that plate. So
there was this love for food in general. You loved food.
Correct.
And you kind of felt that you may not want to be in cricket for too long, and definitely not living the life where you have to go sign and just play a few matches. I mean, either you were playing at the highest level or you didn't want to play at all, right?
Plus also, if you're injured, then it's because there are 3 people always waiting to take your place. And to get back to where you were initially, it's very difficult. So when you're injured 1 year, 6 months to a year, you're just sitting idle. And I can't sit idle as a person, so I always have to.
So how did people around you, like your mom's here, I mean, how did your family? I, for one, was shocked. Because remember, I used to tell you, Nishant, please get me Pavilion IPL tickets, right? So I had kind of seen the talent in you. So I was very shocked when news came out that you were going to Manipal.
Correct.
So how did the family take it? How did your peer group take it? How did your cricket coach take it?
Family-wise, I think they've always been supportive all through, even when I left ITC. When all the decisions that I've made till now, initially there have been many questions asked, but then somehow I managed to convince them and keep them okay, and so that way there haven't been too many.
So you're possibly a very good salesman as well, apart from being a chef. You can sell your idea.
Yes, I have to. I don't have an option.
Okay. And so was it personally a difficult decision, or was it easy? Like, did you take it over a period of a few weeks, or did it come in a flash saying, where am I going with my life?
So I'm always thinking all the time. So there's no moment of the day when I'm not thinking. So it was always coming to a stage where, what am I doing? What next? So I had always somewhat planned what I was going to do next. So it was just taken overnight, the decision. And then after I take something, I stick to that. And I always make sure that I do the best in that.
And did you play a few matches after that, and did you score very well? So were you like wavering, saying, shall I go back to playing cricket?
No, so even today, so when I hit a century, they're like, you shouldn't be playing here, you should be playing somewhere else. But then I said, no, at least I'm getting a chance to play even now, so that's great.
One of the things we had a little conversation over his brownie actually, and I asked him. So he's gone, played at the Gandhinagar club, scored a century for the club, and then he's gone to Paris Corner to buy cocoa for his brownies. Then he's launching a restaurant tomorrow, a store tomorrow, and he's got like 100 people confirmed coming for the opening tomorrow. And he's going to finish this event and go back to, possibly not sleeping, but working through the night at his store in the kitchen. So my question to him was, did you have a dull moment? And did you ever feel exasperated with the day, the way your day has been packed today? And he said, what was your answer? Did you feel dull? Did you feel...
No, I'm happy that I got to do everything I did today.
And I think that's the key to really being able to follow your bliss. You're enjoying it, and you're thoroughly in the moment. You're living it every moment of it, and I could see it in his eyes. I'll come back to you, more questions to you, but let's get to Niyantha. So Niyantha, almost similarly, I want to ask you. So Niyantha has got an undergrad degree from the University of Texas, right? And then he goes to work with Microsoft for 4 years. And as I understand your story, you somewhere decided that this job is not going to take you anywhere, right? Not what you want to do, but it's going to take your career up, but not what you want to do. So talk to us about that time. Was travel writing a part of your life early on? I mean, did you show signs of it in school or at university in Texas? Did the education have something to do with the fact that you didn't want to be in that line? How did this decision to move out of Microsoft really germinate?
So I went straight into a job at Microsoft right after college. But I had always been writing. I wrote a blog when I was 14, I think. I mean, I wasn't writing well, I was just writing. And during college, my friends and I, one of whom is here, started a magazine in college. And so writing was always the thing I did. And then when I got to work, like all through college, I didn't have time to think. There was always one assignment or the other, hanging out with friends, one thing or the other. It was easy to not think. But once I got to work at 5 p.m., 6 p.m., my job ended. And then I was new to a city, I didn't have many friends there. And I had all this time.
You were based in Seattle?
I was based in Seattle. And I had all this time where I could do something. and writing had always been an interest. So I started taking evening classes at the University of Washington. I started taking writing classes. And as I started doing that more and more, I realized that that was where my primary interests were. It was in writing. And so around the 4-year mark, I had decided that I wanted to go to school. I wanted to go to graduate school for creative writing. And so I had applied. And so that was always, I guess, plan A in my head. Go to graduate school, do creative writing. And as I was dreaming of all of these things, I knew there would be this 3-month gap that I could take. Graduate school would start in August. I could probably quit in April, and then what would I do in that time? I wanted to take time off, and I started thinking about traveling. Because of some minor experiences, I had a friend who had taken 2 years off, 27 months actually, and traveled, came back, did a PhD in computer science, and I met him at Microsoft. So I'd heard these stories, and as I thought more and more, travel became, like, what was plan B started sounding more interesting than plan A. And I didn't get into graduate school.
You never went to graduate school?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
So I did not get into graduate school. But I knew, as I thought more and more about that 3 months, I was like, why don't I still do this? And writing again was becoming more of a prominent thing in my life. So I think it was a very gradual decision.
So there was no aha moment? It wasn't like overnight for you?
I think the aha moment was more along writing, more than travel.
Okay.
I think the idea that writing is what I enjoyed the most came through my classes at the University of Washington. But travel was just this slow, gradual, from the back of my mind started, becoming more important to me.
And all of this happened in April to August 2014?
This happened about January to April 2014.
2014.
Yeah.
So just about a year ago.
Yeah.
Okay. And what's this, this episode that happened? So you quit your job and you drove from Seattle to Los Angeles.
Right. So.
And you go off somewhere, and tell us about that moment. So he goes off somewhere right in the middle of this road, and there is no, you're lonely on that road, and there's no mobile phone signals. And you come up with this question to yourself saying, what if the world thinks I've disappeared? Or something like that. So tell us about, was that a big moment to kind of tell you that, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do what I'm doing?
I mean,
why did you want to go to LA in the first place?
So my sister lives in LA.
Okay.
So I had basically packed up, sold all my furniture, sold all my things. I had a bunch of clothes and some other miscellaneous things, and my sister was there to dump it all on. So my plan was to drive all the way to LA, give her everything, and then travel. And so I remember, I think the day before I left, I always took the bus to work. And I saw the bus going the day after I quit. And it was kind of this weird moment where it felt like, that life is no longer. Like, it felt like I had, all of a sudden entered a different life. And so there were some, I guess, I wouldn't say doubts, but, I was thinking a lot about what I had done. And as I was driving from Seattle to LA, I was somewhere in Oregon. And it was this beautiful stretch of road. You could see this mountain called Mount Hood in the distance. And, I had no plan. I could stop wherever I wanted to, so I did. And I got out of the car, and there was this amazing breeze blowing. And again, my phone there was no signal, no one could reach me. And it felt like for a moment I had, no one knew where I was, and it was okay. And I guess that was one of the early moments where I felt maybe this might work out.
Did nobody tell you, your family I think is here, did nobody tell you that Microsoft, a paying job, and now Indians are becoming CEOs, right? So more Indians are becoming CEOs of global companies. So nobody told you that the more practical, logical thing to do would be to continue in Microsoft or build your career on what you had studied for?
I honestly wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my parents. So it was never me. Even when I contemplated it, I was never worried that that's where the conversation would go. I think they knew that my passion was in writing. Obviously, it was in many ways a practical decision. It wasn't like one day I said I'm going to quit. We spoke about it. And I'm very lucky in several ways. I have a degree in computer science. I'd worked at Microsoft. I had friends who I knew would be there for me. And so, as we spoke about it, it felt like it's not that big a risk actually, because of, the way my life has turned out. And so, once they realized that, I had a plan, they were on board.
We're going to come back to your plan, and we're going to talk about plan Bs as well. Okay, I heard you say plan B, and that's my favorite subject often. Is there a plan B? We'll talk about that in a bit. But let's go to Nishant. Nishant, so you went from Manipal straight into the ITC hotel program, right?
Right.
You finished the hotel program at Manipal, which was a 4-year program.
Correct.
And you got into the ITC training center at Gurgaon.
Right.
Right? So, there you were in the best place in India in terms of your hotel management background, your basic education in hotel management, and then again in the best place in India in terms of training, because I understand that the ITC training is pretty rigorous.
Yeah, and in terms of food, ITC is the best.
The best, yeah. Both as an observer and as a guest, I know that they're really very, very good. So, and you were also posted, he was also posted as part of the opening team at ITC Bharat.
Yeah, Grand
Bharat, which is the largest property in India in terms of the only hotel to have all-suite hotel, right?
Yeah.
101 suites.
Yeah, and it has a 27-hole golf resort.
Right.
Golf course.
Golf course. In Gurgaon. In Manesar. In Manesar in Haryana. So you were part of that opening team, and yet you chose to give it all up. How did that decision happen? So we know the cricket to chef story, but then the chef to entrepreneur story, what's it?
So I've always had a goal before I started anything. So even before I started hotel management, I knew I wanted to be a chef, number one. And number two was I wanted to start something of my own.
It was clear to you.
It was very clear.
Why did you have that clarity that you would be an entrepreneur someday?
Because somewhere I feel that my abilities somewhat match that, and rather I would be happiest if I could offer or create an experience for someone and firsthand. So I am the one who's deciding how that experience would be, and someone is experiencing it and maybe liking it. So that's what I always wanted to do.
Okay, so you had that clarity. Okay.
Yeah, whether it was small, as in you start small, but then that's the way I wanted to go.
But didn't the brand ITC, didn't the paycheck, the security of a paycheck, didn't the there's an aura when you say I'm a chef at ITC, right? And you get to meet some really high and mighty people. Didn't all that lure you, disturb you, confuse you?
No, so I was very clear. So frankly, I had to go through that path to come here. So I had to take that path no matter what. So I had to do a basic degree, and I had to work for at least 2 years in a kitchen to understand all the aspects of it, understand everything that's involved in setting up, and understanding what not to do while opening or while running your own business. So I had to do that, and then I thought this was the best time for me to start off. It is a big risk, I know. I don't know if it's going to succeed or not. I'm hoping it will, but even if it doesn't, I think this is the right age to take a risk.
Is there a right age to take a risk? Well, very interesting thoughts coming in, but I don't want to interrupt Nishant. So was your decision to start Brownie Heaven taken in Gurgaon, or where was it taken in Manipal? I mean, where did you decide that you were going to go out and do something of your own?
Okay, so what I intend to do is I'm working on many product-centric brands. So as a chef, everyone says, okay, it's going to start a restaurant. But everything I want to do it differently. So I don't want to start a restaurant because I know at the back end of it, I know how many things are involved. I know most of the food that's served is not fresh. Even in hotels, it's not fresh. So I'm working on product-centric brands so that I can always maintain quality and consistency in every product that I offer. And also for people to relate. So if people think of brownies, the first place that they should think of is Brownie Heaven. So that's what I want, maybe in a couple of years. I don't know how long it's going to take me. So brownies was the easiest thing for me to start off with after I resigned. So that's why I started off with this. And it has.
So you're not going to limit yourself to brownies. That's what you're saying.
Yes,
Your
not.
product range is going to expand.
Correct.
Okay.
Actually, by profession, as a chef, my strengths are not pastry, but brownie is something that I do well. Apart from that, I do European and modern Indian food. So very soon, many of the brands that I'm working on are with those elements.
Okay. But my question was that, did you decide that you wanted to set up this entrepreneurial venture when you were in Gurgaon? Is that when you decided this? Or, I mean, how did you decide to quit? And was that was that a difficult decision again? I mean, while you had made your decision to start something, but how did you decide the timing of quitting ITC?
Correct. So I was at Delhi for about a year and a half. Then I was posted to Grand Chola, so I was heading the coffee shop here. So I was just waiting for the right time to quit, whether it was going to be 3 months in the place or 6 months. I thought maybe the systems would be different here and I could experience this place for some time. But then I realized that the systems are the same, all hotels. And your workload is going to be the same, your processes are going to be the same. So it really won't make a difference whether I'm working in Chennai or Delhi.
So how long did you work in ITC Grand Chola?
I was here for hardly 3 weeks.
So in 3 weeks you made up your mind that this was it?
Yeah, because I'd studied
Why?
each and every process that goes in a hotel, so I know what not to do, how not to be. So as soon as I came here, that was the first thing I did. More than bothering about their training and induction and all that, I went and found out how their systems are, the processes are, whether I would really gel with it or fit into it. And then I realized it's not going to, it's not the same. So it's better I move out soon. So like I told you, I think for me, this is the best time to take the risk. Because even if it doesn't work, I can always do an MBA or whatever. I think my profile is good enough to do whatever I want. So
in 3 weeks you just quit your job?
Yes.
And you had no...
And a week after that, I started Brownie Heaven.
Okay.
So everything was in place. So
and how was your conversation back home about quitting your job? I think quitting cricket and going is another thing. At least they know that you're going into a career.
Correct.
But here you're getting into entrepreneurship. So what kind of conversations happened at home?
Yes, so this time it was a little more difficult for me to convince them. But then I managed. So like I said, this is the best time for me to take the risk. So why should I take the risk after 3 years and then maybe I'll have more responsibilities then? So, I would have to worry about more things and you will also have to worry about more things. So now I have lesser things to worry about. And you also have lesser things to worry about. So let me just do it.
And that's the way you sold it?
Yeah. A little more drama.
A little more drama. Okay. A little more drama. That's like a more, we get perspective now. So awesome. So I think what I'm picking up from Nishant is that a lot of clarity on what he doesn't want to do. First of all, I think that helps people in getting clarity on what they want to do, right? We often are not very sure what we want to do, but we're very clear about what we don't want to do, and I think that's a great place to start. The other is, I think you're also a very fiercely competitive kind of person. You realize that getting onto the top 15 in the cricket team and playing for India, was going to be outrageously competitive. And so if you are not going to be there, then you might as well be someplace where you are calling the shots, right?
So for me, one principle that I've always worked with in anything that I've got into is, I strongly believe you either be at the top or you be at the bottom. So there's no point being in the crowd.
Awesome.
So either you're the best at it or you're the worst at it. So, and there are a million people who are there in the crowd in between. So I never wanted to be in between. So wherever I've been, I've made sure that I've done well. So
that's what eggs you on to take these risks.
Correct.
Okay, I'm going to come back to you about whether it was what is the right time and what are the risks involved. But let's go back to Niyantha. So Niyantha, how do you fund yourself? I mean, you have to travel. Here's an entrepreneur. I think he's already. It's what, 5 months since you set up your enterprise?
Yeah, about 4 months.
4 months.
It's
okay.
It's picked up well. So
here's a man who understands money and he knows that money is required for everything. So how do you do you have a job? Do you have something that pays you every month? How do you fund yourself? Travel requires money, right? Travel and photography.
It does. So luckily I worked for a tech company, and they were generous enough to pay me well. And so, I had saved up money over my 4 years. And I think one of the things I decided when I quit was, this is how much I have, and this is the amount of money I will not go below. And if I reach that point, I look for a job. So that was how I started. And I'm a freelance writer and photographer, so I make money through that. Not a lot of money, but enough money to sustain myself when I'm in Chennai. And then when I travel, it's out of my savings. So it was a very conscious decision to travel that way.
So doesn't that mean that you deny yourself at this age of your mid-20s, you deny yourself several comforts that people your age, right from the phones they own, the cars they own, the class of travel and whatnot, doesn't it mean that you deny yourself these privileges? And how do you deal with that sense, if at all it comes up to you?
I mean, again, I'm lucky enough that, when I got out of college, I didn't have loans to pay because of my parents. And when I worked, I had saved money, and I didn't have to pay for a mortgage or so many other things. And so, I haven't had to deny myself from the luxuries I want. I stay with my parents when I'm here. When I travel, I do travel cheap. I stay in hostels. But again, that's part of the experience that I love. So again, at no point have I felt like, I could have had more, because I already have a lot. So.
And you enjoy yourself thoroughly through the process.
Definitely, yeah.
Have you? I read somewhere in an interview where he's got a very beautiful point, and I'm going to let him elaborate on that. He says the road decides the journey. The road decides the journey. In one of your interviews, you don't go with a plan even for your travel.
Right.
You just get onto a bus or a train or whatever is available, and head out on the road to your destination. But after that, it's all impromptu. How can you travel like that? I mean, you don't have a plan, and you're not worried about where you're going to end up, where you're going to sleep in the night?
Well, our intercity bus system is very good. So even if I can't book a ticket through IRCTC, there's a bus. So that helps. And again, I think it's more of who I am. I tend to not plan ahead. I like to get to a place, and if it's nice, I would like to spend more time there. If I don't enjoy it, then I'll go to some other place. So again, it's not like I actively thought about it. This journey is in a way been very organic. I haven't, I got to a place, and then my cousin and I went to Parvati Valley in Himachal first, and then Ladakh was nearby, so I went to Ladakh. So it kind of came out of that. And once I started traveling that way, I just wanted to keep traveling that way.
And you don't think there's anything wrong not having a plan there?
For me, there isn't. One of the advantages of traveling solo is I can travel the way I want. I have traveled with friends who do not like the way I travel, and so I've had to change, and that's fine as well. I think sometimes we talk about there is only one way of traveling, or when you travel you shouldn't go see the obvious touristy sites. I mean, I don't think there's anything like that. You travel the way you want to. If you want to go to Paris and see the Eiffel Tower, do that. So I think it's a very personal thing what we look for in each place. And so my way of doing it is just going to a place, walking around, talking to people, and if I enjoy myself, spend a little more time there.
So how do you define your enjoyment when you go to a place and hang around with people? How do you define what gives you? Can you define what gives you joy? What makes you want to stay back and talk to more people? And why talk to people? What's so joyful about that?
So before I quit my job, I think many people here would have heard of Humans of New York. It's this Facebook page where he talks to people in New York, asks them a question, posts their photo with their answer. And so I had started doing that in Seattle, and as I traveled, I continued to do that. And it started off as a creative project, but the good part of it was I was talking to people, I wouldn't have if I was traveling with a friend or if I was just traveling by myself. And I guess the kindness of people is a great thing. Their willingness to open up to me, a complete stranger, and tell me what their life's been like. I think the moments of joy I've had in my travels, I mean, there's different kinds of moments of joy. I was once sitting in this place called Tosh with my cousin.
Where is Tosh?
It's this village that you trek up 3 hours, and you go to this village called Tosh in Himachal. It's a tiny village. And we were just sitting outside this guest house, and you could see the Himalayas around. And there's that feeling of smallness. Like, several people have sat here before I did, and several people will after. And these mountains will stay there forever. So, like, there's that moment of, smallness that gives me joy. There's talking to someone and kind of, those great conversations where I'm not talking as much, I'm just listening, and I'm learning about great things that they've done in their life and the struggles they've had. So I think there's various ways to find joy. But I think most of the time it comes through either conversations or introspection.
And you're able to do both, doing traveling and photography and writing?
Not that I'm particularly skilled at that. It's just, I'm lucky that I've had those moments. It's not like I've tried to have those epiphanies. They just come when they come. So I've just been very lucky.
So I think we're dealing with two very interesting, in a way, contrasting. I mean, both of you are risk takers. I mean, that's the parallel. But here's a very dreamy, romantic, esoteric thinking, bliss catcher, and there is a very ambitious, very clear, either at the top or at the bottom, nowhere in between, and this is what I'm going to do. I think that's, it's making this conversation more interesting. I'm going to spice it up a little bit now, and I'm going to ask both of you, of course, the one of you who, I mean, we can't have a cricket toss right now to decide who's going to get this question first, but one of you is going to get a little time to think about the answer, but the other one will have to go for it straight. So the question is that both of you, okay, it's all fine now, guys, mid-20s, it's all fine. What if someone gets into your life and you have to get married, and there is an opinion that is differing from that of your parents and your peer group. Have you ever thought how you're going to deal with your bliss and that person's opinion? Is that person already there in your life, and so you don't have to worry about it?
I can go first. Again, I mean, I know that what I'm doing isn't, it's not sustainable long term, the way I'm traveling, what I choose to write about. I mean, I'm in a position right now where I write about what I want to write about, and the world doesn't work that way, and I know that. So this journey will come to an end, most likely sometime mid next year or early next year. And I think that's fine. I think I'll go back to a job, and I'll still try to write. I'll still try to travel. But I'm just grateful I got these 1.5 years, 2 years. So I'm okay with that. I know
you're okay with that. That's a very honest answer. That's a very honest. That's a very cute and a very honest answer. Good, good. What about you, Nishant?
So like I told you, I'm taking the risk now, so I don't have to worry about all these things later. So if it works, then I think I'll be well set to, handle them by then. If it doesn't work, I'll be doing something else that'll be giving me enough money till then, so it's fine.
But do you have a plan B? Have you thought of a plan B?
Yes, so the plan B would be to like that time I won't have a choice of my own. I will have to accept that choice.
But you're clear about that?
Yeah. So now I can make this choice, and I can say, no, I'm going to do this now because I have the time, I have the energy, I'm young enough, I can take risks now, but after a point I can't. So I will have to accept that, okay, I tried, it didn't work, maybe later on, maybe 10, 15 years down the line, I can try again, but for that time I have to accept it and just live with that for that much time.
Okay, so both of them have kind of thought through, which way the, what if the wind blows in a different way, But the interesting thing, and I'm going to slightly differ from you both here, because I think I'm about 25 years ahead of you on the curve of life, that don't plan for plan Bs. I think you're doing the most awesome thing in your life, by having the only plan, and that plan is to enjoy yourself, you know. And even if there is a situation that somebody comes into your life and you have to sit down and have a conversation, have it around an area that both of you share, you know, and work on that area, even if it is not this one, you know. That's a better way of looking at it than giving up
That way I
what you
think
love
it'll
doing.
be easier for me because it's something to do with food. And I don't know anyone who doesn't like food.
I'm sure people will have the same thing to say about travel. I meet very few people who say I don't like to travel. You know.
Well, if you have to stay in a 500 rupee room, you may differ with that. But
I understand that. I understand that. So I think one last question I have for both of you before we open up, and then we'll take the questions as they come, and then we have some questions that you're going to throw at the audience to keep them, you know, work towards these beautiful mugs. So the last question, how do you deal with any thoughts of insecurity and fear? You've taken a career break. What if you know, by some quirk of fate, the world changes, the economy changes, and the line of business that you are trained in is not the most happening place in a couple of years from now? How do you deal with insecurity and fear?
I find that writing helps.
Is it therapeutic? Is that what you're saying?
I think it gives me clarity in
Mhm.
that if I'm feeling insecure, oftentimes it's a few different things that's giving me the insecurity, and it can come from many different things. Maybe I don't feel like I'm a good writer or a good photographer, or maybe I'm wondering what I'm doing with my life. There are many things.
Oh,
that
so
could
it's not
happen.
just about the career. It's not just about the money.
Right. I mean, I had moments of insecurity even when I was at Microsoft.
Oh, okay.
So for me, again, this isn't scientific or anything, but I just write, and it helps me. Once I write, I'm able to articulate better what the insecurity is. And again, you know, I've got a great support system, my parents, my sister, friends. So I write it down and then I talk about it. That's usually the way I go.
In fact, that is the best way. I do that all the time, and that's what led to my book getting published. Because if I had not sat down those nights and written what was going on in my head, I don't think I would have got the clarity to deal with life. So it's an awesome tip that you're giving everybody. That, in fact, I go one step further and I say, if you can define a problem, thanks to Twitter, now we have this ability to put everything into 140 characters. So you don't have to tweet. All you need to do is have a Twitter account and go define your problem within 140 characters. If you cannot define a problem in 140 characters, it's not a problem. It's as simple as that, you know. So if you define it in 140 characters, you'll be able to solve it. And if you can't solve it, why worry about it? Either way, a solution is born. So thank you for sharing that. How do you deal with fear and insecurity, or do you have time for it at all?
Well, now I don't have any time, but if it's to do with the business, then I think food as such is never going to get affected in any way. Maybe what kind of food, so I can always move to that kind of thing. But in terms, personally, yes, I have thoughts where, you know, yes, I'm glad that I have, you know, parents who are so supportive with everything I do and who, you know, try and help me in every way. But apart from that, yes, it's a huge risk that I'm taking. And once you start employing people, then you're again responsible for them. So there are a lot of things that are involved, and also creating an experience for people. So yes, I think, you know, will I be able to do all of this? So I'm opening my store tomorrow, so I'm still thinking of all that now. But yes, somehow it's all been going smoothly now, and I think I should be able to handle it.
Awesome, awesome. I think the trick about that is to deal with fear and insecurity is to understand that nothing can be solved by fear. You know, by being fearful of it. You experience it, and you either like it or you don't like it. And if you like it, then keep doing it no matter what. You know, that's the way to deal with it. So wonderful a conversation there. I'm going to actually open up to the audience, but I have something to share with you, which is, I think in both these gentlemen, what we see is what Jane Austen wrote in Sense and Sensibility, that happiness, you have to know your happiness. That's what she wrote, you know. So each person, everyone has to know their happiness. And I think they, Nishant here and Niyantha here, clearly know what gives them happiness. But we'll be failing in our duty, especially with these young people. The fact that they've found an opportunity to join us in this edition, we'll be failing if we don't celebrate their parents over here. The parents who gave them the freedom of choice, and instead of, so thank you so much, thank you for appreciating that. I mean, Shobha, I know. Niyantha, can you point out to your parents? Wonderful, wonderful Mrs. and Mr. Shekar, thank you so much. Khalil Gibran, it was, who said, children are not born for you, they're born through you. And these are parents who recognize that. And I think the biggest service we can do to the next generation is to not come in their way. Yes, they may fall, they may stumble. I fell down at the age of, I must have fallen down many times before, but I never realized I had fallen because, I was so obsessed with myself. But when I finally fell down, I was about 40. And I'm sure my parents must have been worried stiff about my fall. So things happen in life. So I think being very presumptuous about a definitive career path not being taken as per worldly definition, a definitive career path not being taken, being presumptuous about it is perhaps the biggest disservice we can do to young people. So thank you so much for that. Can we now have some questions from the audience? And we'll let you please keep your questions on the subject of bliss. Though I know they are quite talented in many aspects, but can we have some questions from anybody? Yes, Badri?
In traveling, I see Airbnb, I see blah car, all enabling technology and travel. That's affordable, that's possible for people. Have you used those tools, and what has been your experience?
I think I've kind of used the entire gamut of options just to, travel safe and travel cheap, however possible. So I think it's good. I mean, it's definitely, the situation's better than it was before. So yeah, the technology's only helped. Oh, I haven't tried that out.
America, what do you find is the difference?
So you were asking about the difference in traveling between in India and America.
Your experiences when you're talking to people and all that, no?
I don't know if there is an essential difference between the two experiences. The only thing is, I'm much more fluent in English than in Hindi, so I tend to understand those conversations better. But I can't think of a particular difference. I think I've kind of embarked on this kind of travel more in India, and so I've spoken to a lot of people. I think the thing that's really struck me, I mentioned it earlier, was people's willingness to open up. I remember this one time I was in Pondicherry, and there was this old man sitting on the promenade road looking at the waters. And I just went up to him and said, I'm doing a photo project. Could I ask you a question? And I said, what brought you to Pondicherry? And we were talking for the next half an hour, and he just told me his entire life story. So I think you can find those people in America and in India. So I think, I don't know if I answered your question, but what I guess touches me the most is that aspect of people. Not necessarily. I think since Humans of New York, my inspiration for this project, is a lot more popular in the US. People are more immediately okay with me talking to them. I've had several rejections coming up to people and saying, I'm doing this, and they're just like, who are you, go away, and I completely get that. So I think that's definitely a difference in that people were more aware of what I was trying to do and hence were more open to talking to me. Here it was a little startling, surprising for them.
Thank you.
I'm sure you're going to create a very heavenly brownie experience in your brownie heaven. Now, you said you're a very creative person, and while you're following your bliss, how do you plan to, create theater while plating the brownie? I'm a big fan of MasterChef Australia, hence his knowledge about plating and theater and stuff. But I'm curious to know, how can you create theater with brownie while plating?
Okay, so I'll give you an example. So one of the desserts on the menu is called Heaven on Earth. So it's a concept, basically, where I'm doing brownie soil. So the earth element of it was brownie soil. So it's basically brownie crumbs, which depict soil. Over that to depict the greenery and to depict stuff on that. So I have different fruits and berries and a quenelle of mascarpone. So this entire combination is really good. So the dessert is heavenly and the elements are from the earth, or rather taken from the earth, so I've called it Heaven on Earth. So that's just one example. So I have about 10 different concepts like that. So I'm doing a lot of stuff like that.
That's what Bliss can do to you. I think he didn't have to think for the answer. He was genuine and he knows. I mean, the fact that he's never entered a kitchen until 8 years ago, and there he is, heaven on earth.
All the very best.
Very nice. Next question, please. Okay, I'm actually going to. Did you have a question? Yeah. So Mani there has a question.
I got a question for Nishant. See, what is the similarity between playing cricket and doing this kind of brownie heaven and all? Is there any similarity you find with regard to doing these two different type of?
No, so see, the chef profession as itself is you're always on your feet. There is no chair in the kitchen, and there is no place that you sit. We're always eating while standing, we're eating while we move around, while we keep working. So even in my place, my outlet, I don't have a chair to sit, so I'm always on my feet, getting work done, getting supplies. So now I do everything, right, from getting supplies to marketing to getting stuff on the plate to everything else, to delivering. So I'm always on my feet, I'm always on the move, I'm always doing something. So I think the similarity would be being on your feet, or being on the move all the time.
Thank you.
Yes, Ramesh. Varliye paathe nanu.
I thought of sparing the two kids.
Ramesh there is our Asthana Bliss Catcher. He's been there for all our sessions. Thank you, Ramesh. We are very privileged to have you here.
Pleasure is mine. This is targeted to you. Why brownies? Why can't the whiteys like our idlis and dosas to start with?
I'm actually working on an idli brand. It is in the pipeline. But brownie, like I said, was the easiest thing for me to start off with after I quit ITC. So it was the thing that involved the least standardization, the least headache with food. As in, you need to really get your processes in place. And to do with consistency, quality, your product, you need to buy the same supplies all the time. You need to be able to source it all the time. Something like idli would require a lot of, basically it's a science. Making an idli is science. So your humidity, your moisture, your type of dal, the rice, everything matters in an idli. So I am actually working on that. That is in the pipeline, but I thought this was something that I could start off immediately. So I went out and I started off with this. As in, I wanted to start off as an entrepreneur in food, and this was something that I could start off, like if I thought of starting something tomorrow, I could start with this. So I said, okay, why not this?
Good. And to you, have you told about all these things to Melinda and her husband about all that you have been doing?
I think their priority is on way more important things in the world. They're solving way more important problems in the world for me to be of relevance to them. But hopefully someday I'll just get to meet them and congratulate them for the work they're doing.
And I think they are following their own bliss, right?
Definitely.
Right, yeah. So that's awesome. So I had a question each for both of you, and then I'm going to go to another interesting person for a very quick perspective, right from the audience. But the question for both of you: any regrets at all? Any thoughts ever that maybe I should have deferred it, or did you actually think you should have done it earlier?
For me, it felt like the right time, both from I needed to have a certain amount of savings, and it took time to arrive. Like he said, he had to go through what he did to become the entrepreneur yesterday. I had to go through what I did to realize this is what I wanted to do. So no, thankfully, luckily, no regrets.
No regrets. What about you?
No regrets at all.
No time to regret for Nishant.
No regrets at all. I'm happy. What I'm doing.
Awesome, awesome. I'm gonna. You have a question?
Yeah, I had a question for both of you on peer pressure. I think he kind of touched on it. But do you at all, do your friends tell you, something about what you're doing? Do they say, "Oh, great that you're able to"? It's great that you're able to do what you're doing, or do they say, "Macha, you made a mistake"?
For me, luckily, I'm doing something with food and something that everyone loves. So I think they're happy. I think they're happy that I'm doing it.
So Vishwa, I wanted to ask you, when you decided to do take up a career in filmmaking, how did you? Was it a difficult choice with your family, with your parents?
No, it was not a difficult choice because my mom's a dancer. I told my dad I'm going to do cinematography. The first thing he told is like, "Okay, you need a DSLR. I'll send him the money, buy it." So things are very simple.
That's easy. So one more parent to celebrate there. So the world is changing. The world of parents is changing. But in your life, so the same question which I asked them, it's not easy to make an entry into films, right? It's not easy to get a vehicle like Neram or get a vehicle like Premam to be working on, projects to be working on. Did you at all encounter fear, insecurity? What if all this fails? What will happen of my life?
No, because when I did Neram, my friend Anand, he was a cinematographer. He just called me, told we are going to do a film. Come to Chennai. I was like, okay. He gave me the script. So that's how it began. So we didn't plan anything, and we usually don't plan.
You usually don't plan.
It's just happening. So we know, like every time we plan, we mess it up. So it's like okay.
So you just go with the flow.
We just go with the flow because like if you want to shoot an outdoor, you light up for 2 hours and you wait, and suddenly rain comes in or cloud comes in, and like okay, it's not gonna happen. So we usually don't plan. It's like, how is the condition out there? It's good. We'll shoot. It's bad. We'll shoot. So we just go with the flow.
That's awesome. So that's the perspective. I think they're learning something at their age which we took years to learn. Go with the flow, But my question was also specific on the personal front. I mean, when you're a startup cinematographer, when you're starting up in your career, obviously your earnings are not very top draw.
No, still like I took 100 rupees from my mom, like my petrol, and she was like, okay, take it. So, I had no insecurities because after Neram, I was idle for 8 months. The only thing I do is download and watch movies. So my mother never came and asked me, are you going for any job? I was like, it'll come, wait, time is yet to come. And after 8 months, we did Primum. So like, I knew things will come to me because I know I'm on the right path.
You're sure you're on the right
I am
path?
Definitely because
What happens to you behind the camera? Do you enjoy that process?
That is the only thing I enjoy because everything is spontaneous. So like you have very fraction of seconds to decide what to do. When cinema is basically what happens between action and cut. So that is very you can't plan that. So an artist may change. So you light up an entire scene. When I came in, I was not looking. I was looking at the metal halide lights. So I usually observe a lot of things. So you need to recreate a lot of things in real life in cinema. So you need that observation. So I basically do that. I observe a lot. And that's how things work for me.
That's awesome. In fact, one of our guests, thank you. One of our guests, G. Venkatram, who's a very acclaimed photographer, if he had been listening to you talk, he would have blessed you because his only advice to everyone was that if you want to ever be behind the camera, whether you're doing stills or cinematography, you should just be worshipping light. And I think you're engineered for that because that's all I heard from you. Fantastic. Let me allow Niyantha and then Nishant to ask you your quiz questions for the day. So are you all set? Okay, young people, we thought we'll get some buzz into the audience. So, how many questions do you have?
I have a couple of.
He has got a couple of questions, and each right answer fetches you this beautiful mug. Okay, and with brownies, yeah, with brownies. And how many questions do you have? He has got one question. Okay, so are we all set? Yeah. Okay. So your first question.
So there is a small town in Himachal Pradesh called Kasol. It's in this area called the Parvati Valley. And the store signs and the restaurant signs are primarily in two languages. One of them is English. What is the other?
Yeah.
Hebrew.
Hebrew.
Hebrew is right.
Is there a story behind that?
So,
Niyantha, you
hand over the mug.
she's my friend, but I promise I didn't.
Thank you. So what's the story behind it being in Hebrew?
So, you will see more Israelis in Kasol than Indians probably. For several years now, it has been the place where Israelis go to chill. So they all go through compulsory military training, and at the end of it, they just want to take time off, take a break.
So they come all the way to India?
They come all the way to India, and they travel to Kasol, which is not easy to get to. You get to Delhi, and then you take a 14-hour bus ride, which is not comfortable. So, but it's one of those places where one Israeli went there, came back and said, go to Kasol. And so while we might not know where Kasol is, the Israelis know where Kasol is.
No, seriously.
Is Kasol the same as Kasauli?
No, it's different.
It's different. We'll go to Nishant's question and then come back to Niyantha.
Okay, so this is a question with something to do with one of the ingredients of a brownie, so that's cocoa. And so the question is, which place is was the world's largest producer of cocoa?
Okay, so Ghana is the right answer. Okay, so Ghana is the world's largest producer of cocoa. Okay, fantastic. Back to you, Niyantha, for your last question.
So there is a word in Ladakhi that means hello, goodbye, and thank you. What is this word? I think we're just going to go down the list then. I can ask another question.
Yeah, please ask another.
So the answer for that is Jule.
Jule.
So if you go to Ladakh, you'll hear people saying Jule, Jule. Whether you come in or you leave a house, you'll hear that. So. It's up to you to decide. Yes. Okay, so there is a temple in Karnataka called the Chennakesava temple. What dynasty built this temple?
So there we are. We tried something different, and I think we got some nice mugs for a few people out here. So if we like the format, we'll continue it next time. But for now, are there any more questions for the gentleman, or can I do a quick summary and wrap up? I think first of all, I want to say that many people who have come here, some of our previous guests, Edgy, Bamini, Swami and Rama, Ramesh, of course, Badri. Thank you so much, many of you, Venki and Jyoti, Geeta and Mani. So thank you so much for being here. All of you people help us build this community of Bliss Catchers. One of the reasons why we wanted to hear young minds is we wanted to see what's going on in their mind, and it's so encouraging to notice that they have the courage to not take the beaten path. They have the courage to stay on the path that they've taken, and they have the clarity to know that it's fine if something doesn't go according to a plan. And I think that's what makes this evening very special for me personally. It's a learning. I want to add, just for your benefit, that at every stage in life we will all be confronted with this whole feeling of insecurity and worry. As you rightly said, it's not only money that will make you insecure, it can be anything. And I think insecurity, fear are just imposters. They're coming between us and what we can truly be. I was reading a story. I have a favorite columnist in the New York Times called Arthur C. Brooks. And Arthur Brooks, I like him because he talks about happiness all the time. And he says that according to the Peter Principle, managers normally rise to their level of incompetence. But he kind of expands on that further, and he says managers also tend to rise to their level of misery, because the higher they go, the more unhappy they become. And he analyzes this through some research, which, like most Americans, he's extremely on the ball with the data that he's thrown into the column. He says that most people who rise up the corporate ladder are people who have been pushed up because they were efficient with their jobs. And they were efficient with their jobs because they were happy doing it. And then they become incompetent and inefficient because they're unhappy doing the manager's job or the leader's job. So he says, therefore, great teachers become lousy deans. Great officers become lousy managers. Great engineers become lousy supervisors, and so on. So he analyzes this, and he says the only way, and where does he come back with his final analysis? He comes back with his final analysis saying the Bhagavad Gita says that, so what's the way out? You renounce work? Everyone, as Vani was saying in her opening remarks as the CEO that attended this program two editions ago, told us, so does everyone quit their jobs and follow their bliss? So the Bhagavad Gita apparently says this, that between renunciation of work and working in devotion is a lot better. So if you do love what you're doing, then you work better. And if you can't love what you're doing, okay, at least make sure that the work that you're doing is in a way being done as a service, not by way of just earning a living. And there, says Arthur Brooks, lies the secret to being happy. And he says being in the bliss zone. And to conclude the evening, I just thought I'll share something I've written down from a man that I admire just for his, I don't agree with him all the time, but I'm sure all of you have heard of him, Richard Dawkins, the atheist, a British thinker, atheist, writer, and he writes in The God Delusion, and this part I agree with him. He says there's something infantile in the presumption that somebody else has a responsibility to give your life meaning and point. He says it's probably juvenile to allow somebody else to give your life meaning. The truly adult view, by contrast, is that our life is as meaningful, as full, and as wonderful as we choose to make it. So he says a more mature viewpoint is that you bring meaning to your life, that you decide your happiness. And I think this evening, these two wonderful young men have shown us the way to finding our happiness. Go do what you love doing. And this will stay with me for a long time. Niyantha and Nishant, thank you so much for being here. And, on behalf of everybody, have a wonderful evening. And thank you. Good night. Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Ashwin and Odyssey. We are handing over mugs to both Nishant and Niyantha. And Nishant, you want to tell them where Brownie Heaven is opening tomorrow?
So this is on Peters Road, Roypeta, which is very close to Satyam. It's just diagonally opposite New College on the main road itself.
Yeah. I always keep forgetting it because I keep going with the moment. So, yeah, Vani is just reminding me. So October 31 is our next, it's a Saturday, it's Halloween's. So you can come dressed in costumes if you'd like. But we do have something very exciting on that day. We have Sriram Iyer of Nalanda Way. So he's a social entrepreneur working with children. He'll be joining us. And we have an absolutely fascinating team from this brand called the Post Box. Nikhil and Madhu. Nikhil quit a job at Facebook to set up the postbox with Madhu, who is a fashion designer but decided not to, just launch a line, but instead decided to get entrepreneurial. So the two of them are joining us, and that's on October 31, Saturday, 7 p.m. right here. Our November edition will be on November 28th. Again, a Saturday. We're still in the process of finalizing our guests. December will be an off month because we just want to take a month off and then come back with more guests in January. And we now have much of this recorded and will be on the Odyssey YouTube channel in a couple of days. You can watch the previous editions with Anil Srinivasan, G. Venkatram, Parvati Nair, and Theatre Nisha's Bala on the Odyssey YouTube channel. Thank you, everyone. Good night. Thank you.